Hi guys, what's up and welcome to this week's video. So this week I will be reviewing the OnePlus Open, which is a folding phone which just came out a couple of months ago, released by the company OnePlus. It has a lot to offer and has a lot of amazing features, so I was really intrigued. So let's get straight into the review. So firstly, let's talk about the design and display. This phone has got a beautiful, glistening, stunning display overall. I personally think it's one of the best displays that I've seen on a phone. The size of the screen, the shape, the rounded edges, the smooth finish, it all looks amazing. I also personally love the camera module design at the back. However, your fingers do get in the way when you're holding the phone, but it's something that you can get used to. The straight edges of the phone remind me of an iPhone, and the curved rounded corners remind me of a Samsung device. It's like if an iPhone and Samsung phone had a baby and the baby took the best genes from both phones. This phone has both of those qualities. You have the speakers at the top and bottom here, the dual SIM card slot, the charging port, the unlock button and volume buttons, and then you also have a dedicated button here which controls whether you want to put the phone on silent, vibrate, or ringing mode. So I actually found myself using this button quite a lot. The hinge for the folding mechanism is also really sleek and it keeps the phone looking level. The width and height of the primary display is in a lovely proportion. I personally really like it. It's not too narrow, it's not too wide, it's just right. Then when you unfold the phone, you have the 7.8 inches display, which is again a good size, like a mini tablet. It's a really good proportion. More importantly, the fold down the middle is probably the least visible fold that I've seen on a folding phone. The display is gorgeous. It's 2K 431 ppi with a variable refresh rate of up to 120 Hz, which makes scrolling look ultra smooth. Also, something that I noticed right off the bat with this phone is when I was watching videos on TikTok, so videos that are a bit more low res, it made them look better quality for some reason, even though I've been watching those same videos on other phones with a pretty good resolution, but for some reason it just looks more smooth and high res on this phone. The brightness meter also has a large degree of variability, so you can get it really dark and you can also get it quite bright. You also have an image sharpener which enhances the clarity of low quality images, and video color boost which gives you a more enhanced visual experience, and you also have the option to have it in light or dark mode, which is also, I think, a nice personalized touch. The OnePlus uses the Oxygen operating system, which is based on Android 13, and this particular model that I have comes with 16 GB of RAM and 512 GB of storage, which I think is great for the price that you pay. The top bar and gestures that you use to use the phone remind me of using an iPhone, and the navigation and settings remind me of an Android. Again, it's like combining the best things from both operating systems and putting it into this phone, and I personally love the interface. Some features I like is that you can swipe down with 3 fingers to take a screenshot, which makes taking a screenshot super easy. You can split the screen down with 2 fingers from the top and use 2 apps at the same time, or you can simply just drag the app up and use multi-window, and you can also alternate between different apps whilst you have those 2 apps open. Now, I personally didn't find myself using this a lot because I don't multitask that much. If I'm using one app, I'm using one app, but it is a nice feature to have. Another great feature is that you can view your recent files. So if you need to quickly check something, for example, on a PDF document, you can just open your recent files, take a look at that PDF whilst you have another app open. Also with this phone, there's actually a built-in spatial audio or immersive audio feature. So you can have any kind of earbuds and you can turn spatial audio on and you can listen to music that way. However, I did test this out, and to be perfectly honest, it wasn't amazing. It actually didn't do that good of a job. I actually preferred the normal audio mode. Maybe it works on very select few tracks, but for the majority of tracks that I listened to, I didn't find the spatial audio a lot more enjoyable to listen to. It just kind of made it louder and more trebly in a way. Another feature that this phone has is live captions. So that is literally what it sounds like. So if you have any kind of audio playing on the phone, it will have captions for it. So that could work on some videos that you're watching, for example, on YouTube, which don't have captions included. This will generate captions for them. Also, I tested it out and it works on voice notes as well. So if somebody sends you like a really long voice note and you don't have your headphones, you can't hear it, you can turn on that live caption feature to kind of read what they're saying. However, when I tested this out, whilst it does work, it does lag behind. But if you are in dire need of having captions for whatever reason, then this phone does have that feature. One thing that I didn't like too much was the keyboard. Now, the keyboard spacebar is a bit shorter than the average keyboard you have, and instead they have that emoji button. And I found myself accidentally touching that emoji button quite a lot, which gets a bit annoying. You do kind of adjust to the smaller space bar, but I feel like there was no need. But I guess you can adapt to it over time. It's not a deal breaker. The battery life of the phone is pretty average. It's on the good side, so I have charged it in the morning 100% and been able to use it throughout the whole day without needing to charge it again, and being able to listen to music, watch videos, take photos, that kind of stuff. So the battery is pretty good, but it's not amazing because your battery does die down quite a lot towards the end of the day. You also have super fast charging, so it does charge fairly quickly, which is good. There are also a ton of other features like RAM expansion, ability to connect a stylus, gestures you can do when the screen is off, a Zen Space app which limits your screen time and helps you stay focused, a smart sidebar, being able to have multiple users on the device. But I'm not going to get into all of these, otherwise this video would be about 30 minutes long. Now let's talk about something which probably is on people's #1 list when they're looking for a phone, and that is the camera quality. I feel like these days they just make cameras and put phone kind of features in there because it's crazy. This phone has 5 cameras. There are 2 front cameras, so you have one on the primary display and you have one on the bigger display, which is at the front, and then you have the 3 cameras in that circle shape at the back. You have sensors, you have everything. The main one being 48 MP with Sony's pixel stacked sensor, a 64 MP telephoto lens with 3 times optical zoom, and an ultra wide 48 MP camera. Now all these specs are absolutely amazing, and the camera does take some pretty amazing high res photos because Sony's technology is in there, and personally Sony is probably my favorite when it comes to camera technology. The colors are sharp, the image is very high res, there is little grain and noise even in darker conditions, and the built-in stabilization when capturing video is also brilliant. However, one thing I must say, whilst the contrast in the colors and generally it looks pretty good, the tones of the colors are a bit more on the cooler side, so they're not as warm, which is just, I think, a personal preference. It looks very realistic, whereas I feel like with other phones like Samsung phones, it kind of makes it look a bit brighter, a bit more vibrant. But that's not necessarily a bad thing with this phone because it just comes down to personal preference. Some people like more cooler tones, some people like warmer, but I personally just like the more warmer tones when it comes to photos. And you can of course use the photo editing app built in. Everybody edits their photos before they post them anyway, so you can use that to kind of increase the saturation and vibrance slightly just to give a more happy, glowy, warmer look to the photos. But overall I will say the camera is very realistic, very high res, and really good. You can record up to 4K with both the front and back cameras. The only thing that differs is the frames per second, so the front camera limits to 30 frames per second, whereas the back cameras record up to 60 FPS. Looking specifically at the portrait mode of this camera, whilst it is good and it is good at blurring the background, I feel like sometimes it also blurs the subject slightly. I don't know if it's doing that because it's trying to smooth the subject, so it makes it a bit blurry, or if that depth of field just accidentally blurs the subject as well. I personally really like the night mode because I feel like in that the colors stand out more, maybe because the background is a bit darker, so it makes them look more vibrant. Another cool feature is that you have dual mode. So what that does is that you can record with both the front and back cameras at the same time. So that can be a really creative way for content creators to kind of use the cameras. So you can record yourself and also record your view, which I think is pretty cool, which I think can be a cool way to kind of spice up content that you post from your phone. But I still do think that iPhone and Samsung cameras are slightly better than the one on this phone. Finally, let's talk about the speakers and audio quality. The speakers on this phone are actually pretty amazing for a phone, of course. What I was most surprised about was the loudness. These are probably some of the loudest speakers I've heard on a phone. There is a subtle but noticeable bass, and the clarity is also pretty good. It's not too trebly. The call quality is also pretty good, and when you're watching videos on the phone, the audio is very nice to listen to. So using this phone practically for some time now, I actually personally love this phone. It's just the feeling of the device, the interface, the display, the camera, of course. This is probably one of the best phones I've used, and it's also the best folding phone that I've used. Definitely better than the Z Fold 4 that I used. And so my next phone might actually be the OnePlus Open 2 if they come out with that later this year. So that's pretty much it for this week's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and I will see you in my next video. So until then, take care.